because we have the advice that kids need to be socially distanced on the bus 6 feet unless they're wearing a mask. But then the further advice is it's best if they're one to a seat, and that we can consider the seats to be something of a barrier. But we're also required to provide transportation to all the kids who are at the bus. So you see the position that we're in. Anything that we can do to reduce the numbers for transportation is appreciated. And when I polled earlier, I did get the response from families that about a third of our families intend to transport students every day. About a third intend to transport some days, and about a third require district transportation every day to get their kids to school. So those are the numbers we're working with. If those are the numbers when we start transporting, we'll be fine on our buses. In classrooms, the mask breaks will be provided, and that will be determined by the teacher. It can only happen when all the kids are seated and not moving in a classroom. If anyone has to get up, everyone has to wear a mask. And there may be classrooms when, based on how the classroom works, kids will have their masks on most of the time. Once kids are all in the cafeteria and they're seated and eating, they can take off their masks. We do have spacing for the cafeterias. We're expanding beyond just the cafeteria in order to provide the spacing that we need. And questions were asked about hand sanitizer. It's available in every classroom and in all common areas. One person asked if we are saying which masks are allowable and not. No, we're following the same guidelines that are out there currently. It can be a cloth mask, it can be a surgical mask, and it can be a bandana mask. These are all things that are allowed to enter public spaces in New York State. And at this time, we haven't been given any advice to disallow any of those. And I've read the same stuff that some of you have seen about gaiters that are out there. And unless and until I hear from either the health department or from state ed that we're not allowing those are still allowable according to the state. So here's the big one, remote instruction by parental choice. People have been asking, and until we had a plan, I couldn't answer, and we now have a plan. I'm very pleased to say we have worked out a really good plan with our faculty. All instruction will be provided by New Lebanon faculty. All kids will have their regular schedule. This includes the high school of the classes that they selected, and they will appear on class rosters. How this is going to work is our teachers are all on a daily basis going to post direct instruction on their Google Classroom. Depending on the class, depending on the age of the kids, sometimes the direct instruction is maybe 10 minutes, just instructions for working on an activity that will be monitored. Sometime if they're introducing new material, it may be as long as 20 minutes. But these vids will be posted, and the teachers will record them. It will be our classroom teacher. Sometimes they may use materials that they have found that are not a recording of themselves, say a Khan Academy vid or something like that, but there will be daily videos posted. And this follows the instruction that's happening in the classroom. The advantage that we're seeing in doing it this way over some of the other options that we're afraid we might have to use is that when a student is absent, the material is right there for them. Same as the students who are on remote instruction by parental choice. They're following along with their classmates. So if a parent were to select remote instruction at the start of the year, but decide they wanted to enter a classroom, it would be seamless. The kid would be following the exact same work that all of his classroom peers were doing. All students on rosters, and that's whether they're on entirely remote instruction, if they're homesick, or home on quarantine, or in classroom, will engage in Wednesday remote classrooms. The responsibility for all the kids is daily engagement with the Google Classroom. New York State's requiring us to take daily attendance, and so kids are going to have to be logged into their classroom to be considered in attendance for that day. They're expected to complete all assignments, participate in all the state and local assessment. And all students, regardless of the mode that the instruction that we have going, in other words, 100% remote, or in person, they're going to get the same report card and the same assessment as all the kids otherwise engaged in New Lebanon school programs. So a little more detail on the K-6 childcare and Wednesdays. Pretty much what I said. We are going to poll you. Parents are going to have to sign up to attend. We will not be able to accept drop-ins. Supervision is going to be provided by our own teaching assistants and aides. It will be at Walter B. Howard. Students will be given some supervised computer time so they can work on their remote classroom activities, and the rest of the day will be scheduled. Lunch and busing will be provided, and all the same contagion mitigation practices are in place. And in order to do that, to keep these practices in place, that's why we need to know who's going to come and attend. Kids will be assigned to a classroom that will remain with the same supervisor and the same group of kids, because as you know, as much as is humanly possible and scheduling possible, students will remain with a cohort group throughout the day. Now, it's much more easy to accomplish at Walter B. Howard when all the kids have the same program. It's much more difficult when you get into the high school. In the high school, there are groupings that will change during the day. There's no way to do that and not meet the kids' instructional needs. In any given grade, students, for example, may be in any one of 3 different math classes. They may be taking a university social studies class or a grade level social studies class. There are just so many choices that you cannot create a cohort for our high school kids. They will be mixing. I know that was a question that was asked. It really depends on the grade level. So we'll be, as soon as we are done with all 3 of these parent meetings, we'll be asking folks if they want to take a remote option, and we'll be asking if K-6 parents are going to need childcare. Social distancing. All students will be in classes with 6 feet of social distancing. Hall passing will be monitored a little differently in the different buildings. Andrew's on this call, Andrew Court, the elementary. Andrew, you want to talk about hall passing, how you're handling that at Walter B. Howard?
Sure, I'm happy to.
Thanks.
So the hallways, what we're doing is we have markers every 6 feet in the hallway to help keep our students social distance when walking in the hallway. Students will not be walking without an adult. The other piece of that is only one class 6 feet apart will be allowed in the hallway at a time. So if there's one class going through, the other teacher has to wait till the other class goes through before they can enter that hallway. Now, luckily in Walter B. Howard, we have 2 sides of the hallway because we're a big square, so that shouldn't be a problem at all. Then when they get to the end of the hallway, they'll again wait where that office hallway is. They'll wait until that office is, or that hallway is cleared before they bring their class. But again, markers will be throughout the entire hallway, so our students have that visual to know to stay 6 feet apart.
Andrew, do you want to add anything about the cohort grouping at Walter B. Howard?
Sure. So our homerooms will be staying together at all times. So if a classroom typically shares subjects. So for example, our 4th grade, one of our teachers teaches math and the other teaches reading. What will happen, the kids will stay in their homeroom and the teacher is going to be the one moving to the different classrooms. So for example, the math teacher will go to the other classroom and teach math, and the other teacher will come and teach reading. And that's same in the 5-6 program. The teachers are going to be rotating, not the kids. So the kids will be in their classroom. We've worked really hard because we know how hard it is for kids to be sitting in one space all day long. We worked really hard to make a plan for specials. Our kids will be going to art because we have desks in there now 6 feet apart. They'll also be going to music, again, because we have desks in there that are all 6 feet apart, social distance. So that way they're not sitting in the same spot. We've also worked really hard in the cafeteria to make sure kids aren't having to eat lunch in their room. So we've really moved the lunch block. So rather than having usually 3 lunch blocks, we have five lunch blocks. But that means some of the kids will be eating a little bit earlier. So we will be having lunch in the cafeteria as well. And of course, before another child shares that seat, it will be disinfected and cleaned before that other child comes into that room. And same with the gym. Gym will be outside most of the time. And when our new gym is finished, we will be able to social distance in our gymnasium because it will be so large.
Okay, the buses are in here again, but I've covered that, I think. 12-foot distancing for aerobic activities, choir, and band. So that means exactly what it says, that in the high school, we are intending to have choir. If they are actually singing, they'll be in the gymnasium, pointed in the same direction with 12-foot distancing. For the most part, they will be in smaller groups, however, so that we can, smaller ensemble groups, so we can ensure the most distancing as possible. And it will be the same with band, with kids. When kids are playing instruments, they will be distanced and in the gymnasium. We're able to schedule them in the gym for those times. Any PE activities that are aerobic, they'll be outside and they'll be distanced. For the most part, they'll remain with masks for PE, unless they can ensure outside for the aerobic activities a solid 12-foot of distancing. Andrew, do you want to talk about the changes that you've made for music program and at the elementary school?
Sure, I'm happy to. So like every other classroom, we were able to fit every single student 6 feet apart in every classroom, and that means they're all using desks. Same in the music room. So typically our 5-6 program is usually a choir program, but because choir will be a difficulty, because like Ms. Wickham said, they have to be 12 feet apart when singing. So we will not be able to hold choir as long as the recommendations are as they are. So all for grades K through 6, it'll be more of a general music program. So you won't see a lot of singing. You won't, obviously there will be no sharing of any sort of materials, but it'll be more of a general music program for all the grades, like it already has been for grades K to 4. And then band, my phone is ringing, I apologize. Band will start the year in small groups, 12 feet apart. So we'll be able to social distance kids in small groups, and that will just be the lessons. And eventually we're hoping as the year progresses, we'll be able to bring our whole band together. And I have it so that way they can actually have band inside the gymnasium. And don't forget, we're getting a new gym, so it's going to be very large. And they'll be able to hold their band rehearsals 12 feet apart in our gymnasium because of our numbers and also because of the size of our new gym.
And in terms of the music program, this is probably more so for the high school. Some of you may have seen over the spring that they created a video performance, and that was done by each student independently recording their voices and using technology to sync them all up to create a performance. We're going to be using technology in the same way, hoping to be able to maintain a performance program that will be put together in a similar way so that we can keep the kids safe and we can keep the kids performing, and maybe we can increase their technical skills along the way. Some people asked if in the high school, if they weren't comfortable with choir, could they drop it? Choir's an elective in the high school. No, you're not required to take it. So if you want to make that change, I'd ask that you please let our school counselor, Megan Evans, email Megan Evans, and let her know if choir had been selected, that you don't want to take it this year. And she can adjust the schedule for that. I hope that answers that question. Oh, and I didn't hit passing in the high school. Hall passing in the high school. Keep in mind, we will have far fewer kids in the high school because 4 of the 6 grades only have half the kids coming in at a time. Kids will be monitored as they leave classrooms to maintain the spacing in the hallway. Hallways that can be directional will be directional, only one-way traffic. We will have one up staircase, we will have one down staircase. So we are doing what we can with the traffic flow to limit the times kids might have to pass one another. And we will be feeding kids into the hallway one at a time to try to help maintain the 6 feet in the hallway. Additionally, we're not going to use lockers in the high school this year. We tried several ways of trying to assign them because we do have extra lockers with enough space in between, and it just wasn't enough space for us to feel comfortable and for us not to have kids then piling up in the hallway waiting to use their locker to allow space. So students are going to be using backpacks and carrying materials with it. Considering how much of our stuff is done digitally, there's less to carry around. I mean, none of us likes the idea of kids carrying too heavy a backpack all day, but a lot of what we're doing right now, you can see, is a trade-off. We're making a choice on which is the thing that's most important, and most of the time we're prioritizing safety. So going on to sanitation.
And Leslie, could I just
Yeah.
mention the cubbies or lockers at the elementary school, how we're working that?
Thank you, do that, yeah.
So as you know, we don't have lockers at the elementary school, but we have cubbies. So what we'll be doing is one person will be allowed at the cubby at a time, but we're not going to be able to use all the cubbies because we need to make sure that they're distanced. So we have purchased large bins that kids will be assigned to. Couple kids will be on the cubbies, but the others will be in large bins. So they'll have a large bin for their backpack, their coat, their lunchbox. It will be nicely labeled, most likely have to be in the hallway. But that's how we'll be able to social distance their personal materials. Also in the classroom, we ordered plastic bins so they can keep all their individual materials in a plastic bin. So that way it's separated because we won't be able to use community supplies any longer.
Similarly at the high school, where we have classes where students have classroom specific materials, and I'm thinking of art and a technology class, kids' own materials will be kept unique and be kept in a place for only them to use and to touch, so that that will minimize the amount of time that they will have to spend sanitizing items for class. At all times, kids are going to be using their own materials, but that doesn't mean that there aren't some shared items in the building, and that's where the sanitation practices come in place. We're using the guidelines that have come through us from Health and Safety Department at our BOCES, things that are already in guidance documents from the Health Department and from New York State Education Department. Seats and desks are going to be sanitized between uses. Students in grades 4 through 12 will be instructed in this practice as part of our health curriculum. It is something that we need to learn how to do. When we use a space, how do we sanitize it so that it's safe for people who are coming after us? And we have sanitizing alcohol wipes that will be provided for this. Someone had asked if their child wanted to wear gloves for this. Can they? Absolutely. Gloves are available in every classroom. And so any student who wants to use gloves to use the wipes is welcome to do so. Our own staff will be sanitizing the desks and seats in grades pre-K through 3. And again, any shared equipment will be sanitized between uses. That includes for the staff as well. You think of things like copiers, although most copying is called up from their computer in their classroom, they do often use the copier where they have to share the keypad, and there are wipes available for that. And in the other shared equipment that's going to get sanitized is all what we call the high touch areas. And I listed a bunch of them. They're what you would think of: doorknobs, crash bars, faucets, stairway railings, flush handles, all those kind of things. They're sanitized every 2 hours by our staff. Additionally, hand sanitizer is available in each classroom, and it's available in all common areas. And students' hands will be sanitized upon entering the building. And the high touch areas in the buses are sanitized between runs, and the buses themselves are cleaned between the AM and the PM run. And this is all according to the guidelines from New York State Education Department and the Health Department. Andrew, do you want to talk about how it's going to work with kids entering your building?
Sure. So dismissal and arrival will look different at Walter B. Howard, as it will at the high school as well. And we'll be giving specific information in our mailings about this too. So, but I'll just kind of go through it. So entering the building, we are assuming we're going to have a lot of families dropping their students off this year, which they will be going in the main entrance door, which we always have done. We will not be able to have students in the building until 8:25 unless they're eating breakfast. So we ask that if a child's eating breakfast, they come in at 8:15. And how that's going to work, we're going to be taking temperatures as students are walking in. So it's going to take a little bit of time. So we're really going to need your patience, as you're dropping your students off. What we'll do is we will have 6-foot markers lined up outside, and we are asking families, you can't just drop your students off anymore at the door or at the bus circle. We're asking that you walk with your student in line, make sure their temperature is checked and they're all set to go. Once they come in the building, then you're good to go. So starting at 8:15, we will start lining families up. to come in for breakfast. Then at 8:25, any other student can come in the building. And again, temperatures will be taken before that. And on the bus, we're going to only be allowing one bus at a time. So again, at 8:15, kids that are having breakfast will be allowed in. We'll have a staff member go to the bus and asking for kids who have breakfast. They'll walk them down to the, it's actually a screener, kind of like a camera that takes body temperature. So that will be a lot faster than having to do, a specific thermometer. And they'll be walking them to the door. As that bus is done, the staff will go to another person and continue that process until all of our buses are in. So one bus at a time, 6 feet apart. We're going to have duct tape all over the school, and that duct tape will be our 6-foot markers. So that way our kids will have that visual to stay social distance. And then pickup. Oh, my lights just went out. Pickup. So we are going to have a staggered pickup time. So don't quote me on the exact time, but I think we have a 7-minute interval. So from 3 to 3:07, we're going to have certain kids by last name asking families to pick up during that time. And then there's 3 different sections. So we'll give those specifics. And we're asking for families, if you're picking your child up, to try to come during that time, just so we don't have an incredibly long line, so we can make the process quicker, and that way people aren't waiting. We'll have the students ready in the hallway. The families will not be able to come into the building to pick up their child like they have in the past. Our office is being renovated, so I like to call it like a ticket window or a pickup window. There'll be a window with someone in the office. You'll check them in there. We'll let the person in the hallway know that your child is here, and we'll send them out the door right to you. So again, that will be a process as well. We just ask that you come during those allotted times, just so we don't have a very long line at once, because we're assuming more families will pick up their child this year. Same with buses. This year, the teachers will be dropping their students off by bus. So we will announce 1 class or 2 classes at a time, one in the primary wing, one in the intermediate wing. The classroom teacher will walk their class down to the buses, 6 feet apart, of course, in line. But only 1 class will be in the hallway at a time, and they will then bring their kids right to their bus, and they will be on their way. So the dismissal and arrival process will obviously take longer than it has in the past.
At the high school, it's similar. The buses are naturally staggered. They just come in at different times at the high school. And the students at the high school and all the staff will also pass through the screening device. If someone tests their temperature too high, we'll then take it with a digital thermometer as well. We do ask the parents who are dropping students off not leave until they can see that their child has been able to get through the scanner and enter the building, because it just saves you another trip to come back and get students. At dismissal, again, we're staggering kids outside of the classroom to leave. We'll be doing the exact same thing as they get on the buses, with a lot of reminders to stay 6 feet apart. So when we get to the monitoring, I will have up on our website, along with our plan posted today, more detailed information from the health department. It hasn't been up because the health department has been putting it together. These kind of protocols do change with time. I can tell you what we have right now. These are very detailed documents that our nurses have. It's actually 3 pages of if-then statements. So what I'm giving you is a really short synopsis of that. It is a little bit more complicated, depending on each individual case that's presented to the nurse. The short version is, we are talking with the health department, and we will be talking with the health department on a daily basis to make sure that we are in sync. Students are showing any kind of symptoms that are consistent with COVID are going to be isolated until a parent can bring them home. Those students will also have to go home with their siblings. So if one kid has a fever in a family, Columbia County Department of Health says all of them need to go home. They will then be directed to see a family physician, and they cannot come back unless they're cleared by a physician. If the physician thinks that they need a COVID test, they stay out until the results of the COVID test. How long they are quarantined depends on a number of things. If they still have symptoms, what the COVID case came back with. There are different protocols for a positive COVID for a student with absolutely no symptoms and a positive with symptoms. And we will inform the parents of those kids exactly what the recommendations are for them to do, but they cannot come back until they're cleared either by the Department of Health or by their personal physician. And I know all of us have concerns about the fact that you can have COVID and have no symptoms. That's why we are doing all the mitigation efforts that we have in place. And that's really where this falls apart, or where it works, is all the cooperation from home with kids wearing masks, parents keeping kids home if they are not well, parents picking them up and their siblings, and following the recommendations from the health department. And that's what I mean, we're all in this together. It's what happens to keep all of us healthier. The other things are, in terms of monitoring, is monitoring who comes and goes in the building. Only visitors who have to be in the building will be admitted. So that means most of your parents are not going to be coming into the building. You're not going to be coming in when you pick up your children. We will release children to you outside of the building. If you have things that you need to drop off for your children, we'll ask you to leave them in the vestibule, and we'll sanitize them and pick them up and then give them to the kids. And the only other outside people who can come in have to have business with students. Everyone, all the adults have to complete the COVID questionnaire. Most of you, if you're working, you're doing those at your job as well before you come in. And they'll need to have their temperature taken before they can come into the building. And that's the monitoring that we're doing for people in the building. So, digital support for instruction. And this is really important because, as I said, we want every student, a student who's home because they're quarantined or sick, a student who is home because their parents have selected remote instruction, and a student who is having in-person instruction at the school. We want to keep everyone together. And that only happens if we're able to have digital support for instruction. So all the teachers are going to be using Google Classroom. They're going to post their classroom activities, assignments, and those recorded direct instruction pieces. And those will be used on the remote days and for the kids on remote instruction. We're boosting our Wi-Fi signal out into our parking lots to provide hotspots. Town Hall has also done that. The library in town has done that as well. And if you've seen, we have a survey up for parents. I had a meeting this week with the Columbia County Board of Supervisors and the county supervisor. They want to do what they can to try to get Wi-Fi and get high-speed broadband available to everyone in the county. And to that end, if you don't have it at home, I really hope that people fill out that survey, because it will help us work with the county to get much better penetration into our area. We will be using all deployable devices will be given to students to support remote instruction. For many months, we have had an order in for a couple hundred more Chromebooks. Things are delayed. As soon as we get new items in, we will be deploying those, and then additional ones are going to be purchased in this fall. Everything is back ordered. It's a little bit out of our control on that, but we will be deploying everything we have, and of course with preference given to people who don't have devices at home, so that we can keep everyone going forward as best as we possibly can. And very soon, we will be one-to-one with Chromebooks for all students. And in the meantime, we'll be using whatever devices we have available. That includes some iPads, the Chromebooks. We have some old laptops that we deployed during last spring, and we'll use those again. So we're doing the best that we can to support the digital instruction, because we know this is what's going to keep us together as a community of learners, and it's going to keep instruction going forward as best as we possibly can. It's also why we have moved professional development days up to the front of the school calendar. Folks have asked, when does school start? It starts Wednesday the 9th. So that Wednesday will not be a remote day. The other ones will be. At this point, Matt Clefane is not in on this call. I don't know which of the two groups of the 9 through 12 students will start on the 9th, but we will get that information to you. And on that time, the 2 extra professional development days that we've put forward, we're going to be working on skills on recording lessons, skills on posting lessons, and beefing up our ability to support everybody's health with the sanitation efforts that are in classrooms, and the efforts on keeping kids socially distanced in the classroom so that our protocols are the same, so that our expectations for kids are the same, and so that we can do the best that we can to keep the building as safe as we possibly can. So those are the slides that I've prepared. I'm now going to turn to the questions that I have that had been submitted ahead of time. And just to review for this student cohorts, it's going to be much tighter cohorts at the younger grades than it is 9 through 12 because of the nature of instruction. We're not going to be using any lockers at the high school. Kids will be carrying their belongings so that we don't worry about kids congregating at lockers or waiting for their locker to be available because someone's nearby. We had questions asked about our air exchange systems. We meet the NICEAD standards. We are regularly serviced. Our filters are at the standards for the current systems. And for those of you who know what MERV is, they're MERV 8 and 11. Question was asked if we're going up to 13. The systems in our district do not support that. We would have to change our air exchange systems to go up to a 13. Contagion tracing is a question. We will work with the county health department. If there is a positive, they will do the contagion tracing. They will do the notification of everyone who has been in contact with someone for the period of time that indicates that someone has been exposed in a way that is likely to create contagion. And that is the number of minutes and the proximity, and that's the information that we would be providing to them so that they can do it. They can do the contagion tracing. And they would, as I said, also do the notification to people. And they would be determining the quarantines for people and who would be subject to the quarantine. Someone asked about sports. Is there sports? Right now, NISBA says that sports, the fall season is delayed until the 3rd week in September. And we haven't had any update on that. I can't give you anything beyond that. They have put out a couple of possible scenarios. And if they can't do the fall season now, things won't start until January, and we will have abbreviated seasons between then and the end of the year. And we'll keep you abreast of what's going on with athletics. It's not a local decision on whether it exists or not. If it would be a local decision if we're going to participate in it, if it does exist, but at this point, there's nothing to make a decision about. The season is not starting. Asked about 7th grade orientation. We are going to have 7th grade orientation. We're not sure at this point which is the better way to go, if we'll make it virtual or if we'll break the 7th graders into smaller groups so that they can comfortably move through the building with their parents. I think we covered the music program. That was another question. Folks were asking about the Questar programs. For students who are in a daily in-person program, it's going to be daily, and the transportation department will be in touch with families to let them know when pickup and drop-off will be for that. Students who are enrolled in career and technical education, what some folks still call VOTEC, there's no changes. That will meet daily. We'll provide transportation. Once we're done with all these parent meetings, we are going to be polling parents to find out if they want to have in-person or remote instruction. Folks asked where we are in the construction project. We are due to be ready for school with the exception of the gymnasium. During the summer, it was hard to get full staff for the crews. A lot of people were still out and not accepting work. And once that happened, we got back up on target. At this point in the gymnasium, we've got all the cinder block walls in place, except for an area that's being infilled now, which was where the crane was. All the roof structure is in place. The actual roofing material is going on now. We are loading equipment into the remodeled kitchen. I think it began yesterday. That's ready to go. The locker rooms at the high school, the ceilings are in, the walls are painted. All the rough-in is there for all the plumbing and electrical, and we have poured the bases for the lockers, so we're well on target with that. I believe we're installing the new viewing window into the pool. The one will allow people to actually see the starting blocks. That glass is being installed now. I'm trying to think of other big pieces. We're down to just punch lists on all the bathrooms that have been completed. And I'm trying to think, Andrew, is there something I'm missing on the project? Any big pieces?
No, I think, you'll notice a new secure entrance at the elementary school, but that's underway, and the office will be redone. So that'll be something you'll all notice. But it's on target to be finished for September.
Okay, yeah, they poured the slab for the new secure entrance, and I think those brick pillars are in place pretty much at this point, so we're closing that one up. We're not waiting on any materials, so it's just a matter of finishing up the project on that. Someone asked about donating for kids who need PPE. The district is providing masks for kids who don't have them here, but I do know that probably the best place to go with that, if you are interested in donating to help families, is to call Tistria Hoatling in the town hall building in New Lebanon, because they've been distributing masks throughout the community. And they've been doing it at various events, including our food giveaways, that the town's been there for that. So if people are interested in reaching out and seeing how they can help folks who may need access to PPE, I'd really direct you to talk to Tistria Hoatling. Schedules, when are schedulings going out for the high school? Same as normal. We usually get them the end of the third week in August. We're still doing some hand scheduling to try to get kids in all the classes that they want. We're on a regular scheduling. And again, to reiterate that our first day of school is going to be September 9th. Now, while I've been doing that, we've been working hard to get access to your chats. The chat isn't working. So we did work through this entire 45 minutes to try to get it going, and I apologize. We'll have it up for our next meeting. The next meeting dates are on here. If you could please email your questions to the dedicated email line, which is schoolopeningquestions, plural, at newlebanoncsd.org. We will get to them, and all I can do is apologize. It's been steady going, trying to get the chat up and going. We can't see your chats. So if you wrote them, I apologize. We really hope to get that going for you, and we're not.
Ms. Wickham, can I just mention kindergarten and pre-K orientation?
Oh, yes, please do. Please do.
In case we have any pre-K or kindergarten families, unfortunately, due to COVID and the restrictions in our building, we won't be able to do our typical orientation, but we are going to do it virtually. So what that means is you'll be getting information on that coming up, and that will be mailed to you. We'll be having a virtual meeting at 9:30 on the 9th. And I will do the same presentation that we always do. Mr. Noble and I, who will be the new principal starting September 1st at the elementary school, will do it together jointly. And then the classroom teachers will give you a tour of their classrooms. They'll say a couple words about their program. And then also our transportation supervisor will talk a little bit more about busing. So it'll be the same program, but it will have to be virtually just because we can't have so many people coming into our building. Thank you.
Okay, and I'm sorry, go ahead. You had something else, Sandra?
No, I just was saying thank you for your patience on that. I know it's difficult.
Well, I want to thank people for their patience on absolutely everything. Folks have had very good questions, really reasonable questions for a long time, and we've been working to get you the answers. And until we have them, we don't have them. So we do appreciate your patience. We will keep getting out information as we have it. After that final meeting on Thursday, on Friday, we're going to be emailing out surveys to find out various things, to find out, do you want in-person or remote instruction? And for parents of kids in K-6, do you need childcare on Wednesdays? And so we'll get that information, and then we'll be getting back to the people involved to make sure that we're all confirmed with what folks are looking for. First day of school, September 9th. And we're looking forward to it. So again, I'm so sorry the chat didn't work. Email your questions to schoolopeningquestions@newlebanoncsd.org. And maybe you'll be in the next meeting and we'll be able to have this chat up and working if you need to do that. Tuesday at 4, Thursday at 7 p.m. Thank you again, everyone. And I'm really looking forward to seeing people in our schools again. Have a good afternoon. Stay safe. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Be safe.